You know, back then, hell, they didn't care. I've seen guys take these rubber mallets and beat the panels.
Like this with this thing in there, as far as the number.
Yeah.
We have Chief Garvey up here. Let's get 1042.
I imagine they have more than 5.
over as they were singing your famous Kentucky song.
My Old
Kentucky Home. Right. We were there with our steermen. Had a ball.
Of course, today we'll do the national anthem, and maybe we can get the crowd to sing Back Home Again in Indiana, since we're across the river.
I think that might be smart, because we're where we need to be.
You bet. Craft they were going to be flying for their actual combat experience. Engines as the P-51 Mustangs take to the air. They perform quite well for the British, but the Rolls Royce speak well.
Now, 2 years. Now. All of us, so you probably went to school with him, didn't even know it. I go home and just brag, I know Pete now, you know.
Yeah.
Well, see, I grew up in the same town as Charles Lindbergh. Is that right?
Yeah.
The same time, too, right? You know, I got corrected one time. I had it in the brochure that my claim to fame was that I was born in the same town as Charles Lindbergh. That's not right. I had a lady tell me Charles Lindbergh was born in Detroit and moved to Little Falls when he was very, very young, like 8 months or a year or something like that. When did you live in Little Falls, Bill? What year? Well, I mean, you were very small. I was born there in 1932, I get my age away, and I left there in 1937. Well, see, I live 57 miles from Little Falls. Mr. Candy Cane, and the Red Barons in the background as they're coming down and circling this beautiful, traditional air show opening. Get your cameras on this as the ground crew are getting ready to pick them up. As the 1,000 square foot flag is about to touch down, and they're racing down to catch it. As he comes down, right about now, gang, slow it down. Right, you can see the weight on it, and it's coming down 1,000 square feet, and here comes the rest of them down, and how about that, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for the aerial all-stars, and to take it away as they come down, the Silver Baron himself and the Red Baron Squadron in the teaser, Jerry and Company.
Thank you, Bill Bordeaux. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Red Baron Thrills and Pete, I want to tell you we're delighted to be with you again this year. Pete says we need about 160 miles an hour. Let's roll those airplanes up and over the top. Ladies and gentlemen, Red Baron salutes you. Pull that 3,000-pound airplane up and over the top. We call that half of a Cuban ink. They roll out on the 45-degree down line, ladies and gentlemen. All those airplanes going to New York again next week, and in the middle we're here. And I'm excited as I can be. Are you going to have a good time or what, ladies and gentlemen? Let's do
Flew his entire combat career with the 364th Fighter Squadron, the 357th Fighter Group, the 8th Air Force, and aircraft number 2, Gazette Shipley, and on board, or I should say, is being flown number 2 by Chuck Yeager himself, Brigadier General Chuck Yeager. Of course, who also flew with the 357th Fighter Group. In aircraft number 3, Gazette Shipley flying Brigadier General Robert O. And in aircraft number 4 being flown by Norm Lewis, and on board, of course, is Captain Bob Goebel. He also flew with the 308th Fighter Squadron, the 31st Fighter Group. These are 4 of the heroes that you can see on page 5, 6, and 7. 18th Air Force, Captain Goebel was assigned to the 308th Fighter Squadron. In the spring of '44, the 31st converted from Spitfires to the P-51 and began escorting bomber formations to Polesti and Romania, as well as protecting bombers to and from targets in Germany and Czechoslovakia. Goebel scored 11 aerial victories, all while flying a P-51 Mustang Maine, the Flying Dutchman, and that particular aircraft is what it's nicknamed now as being flown by Norm Lewis. Most remarkable is credited with 6 of these in 1 month, in August of '44. His best day of all was August 18th, when he achieved half of his August tally. Pete Peterson, of course, off at sea with his flight before and after Michigan, flew his entire combat career with the 364th Fighter Squadron of the 357th Group, along with Yeager and Bud Anderson and Tom Hayes. At this time, the opposing pilot bailed out of his airplane without a shot being fired on his first air-to-air victory, flying several P-51s, all named Hurry Home Honey. Major Peterson is credited with 15.5 aerial victories and another 3.5 aircraft destroyed on the ground. He left the Air Force after World War II for college. Brad Hood is flying the aircraft that belongs to the Aviation Heritage Museum here. He has Hurry Home Honey, and he has Pete Peterson in it. Bud Anderson is in the back. We didn't know Bud was on board. All right, Bud is in the back seat with Glamorous Slim III. Because Glamorous Slim was Chuck Yeager's late wife, and of course that was his airplane. The third aircraft. He did simply with Brigadier General Robin O's in it. And of course the Flying Dutchman is Bob Goebel, and his pilot is Norm Lewis. So these are the 4 heroes of yesteryear. We'll momentarily get out of the aircraft, and then we'll bring them up on the stage here.
How long did you shoot that big jet off? Shoot it off?
I am not.
How much did it fly?
Now, while we get the pilots deplaned, as we like to say it, we're going to get Lee Lauterbach up with his P-51. The lovely Tamara is going to tell you all about this gorgeous P-51. So dig out. Let's give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as they get out of their airplane. We'll have them on the stage momentarily. And Tamara, take it away.
Thank you very much, Bill. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's our pleasure to again be back here for the Aviation Heritage Air Show 1994. We'll be doing his engine checks. Just about 55 inches of manifold pressure, about 3,000 RPMs, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see Lee bring the gear up on the beautiful P-51 Mustang, and we'll let the gear roll. Ready to move to all our aces here today and to Aviation Heritage Air Show 1994. The theme for our air show is Somewhere in Time. Of course, as most of you know out there, the Somewhere in Time we're talking about are the desperate days of 1940, when we didn't possess all the magnificent aircraft that we have today that you'll see later on in the show. It is also a tribute to the North American P-51 Mustang, World War II's greatest fighter. It's hard to believe that over a speed of approximately 400 miles an hour for your viewing pleasure, the North American P-51 Mustang. And pulling up 60 to the vertical, we will begin to slow the Mustang with his first maneuvering pass, which is going to be a 4-point goal. And while Lee is turning around and obviously having fun, I'm going to take this time to tell you a little bit more about this magnificent fighter. The first Mustang was designed and produced in 120 days. That's quite a feat, couldn't happen today. And you'll see the airplane pull up to the vertical, and you'll go 1, 2 to the inverted, 3, and 4 to the upright. The North American design team, headed by Raymond Rice and Edgar Schmid, introduced many new innovative features such as a streamlined fuselage, laminar flow wings, sealed ailerons, and airflow ducting. It's the sealed ailerons that help make the maximum rate of the roll possible. And now coming in from the left as Lee crosses the air show center, he's going to do an 8-point roll. And we'll count for accuracy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This particular Mustang is not measuring. And it will also begin to show the vertical capability of the P-51 Mustang. Flying aircraft such as the Japanese Zero, the Focke-Wulf 190, and even the Messerschmitt 109 could outturn the Mustang in the vertical flight. But no aircraft could match the Mustang in a vertical air combat scenario. And now from the left, you'll see Lee. He's going to turn the aircraft completely upside down in an inverted path. Giving you a little wing wave there, just to say hello, let you know that you're having a good time. Ladies and gentlemen, feel out of that surf performance, and range of the Mustang became unmatched. The 1652 begins 12-cylinder inline power plant, utilizing two-stage, two-speed supercharging, produced just under 2,000 horsepower. This is the engine that provided the Mustang with the exceptional range and altitude to escort the long-range bombers into enemy territory and return protected. 8-hour missions in the Mustang were not uncommon. This proved to be one of the key elements to bringing the ultimate defeat to European theater. Even German General Göring, upon seeing this Mustang deep in German territory, was quoted as saying, "Well, the war is lost."
The Fairchild aircraft, also built by the St. Louis Car Company, a railroad manufacturer during World War II. And a lot of our pilots were literally taught how to fly. The French Nord, immediately behind it, did a lot of the same type of capability. Again, a fully aerobatic, very low horsepower, fully aerobatic airplane that they could teach their pilots how to fly so that they could get on into the more powerful and more aerobatic capable airplanes. Now over the top you see put the rockets, and of course we dropped flares in on them, and there was two versions of that airplane, the O2A and the O2B. The O2B was an absolutely stock block off-the-shelf Cessna 337. It got shot down and had to find its way out. The aircraft that we see flying, the Nord, of course, is out there right now. This aircraft, again, a kind of an airplane that was used for training of the United States Air Force pilots, and it was originally built to replicate the F-86. In light, it really flies very, very easily. Let's talk about the U-8D for just a second. A lot of the pilots who were twin-engine drivers in the mid to late 1950s would know that as a T-bone or a twin bonanza. The aircraft had 285 horsepower on either side, and the unusual thing about the T-bone was that it had the pilot's seat right directly.
As Lotto Lennox, Chicago, Illinois, comes in. It does. Big old pull-up, and what we call the big barrel roll. Now as he clears the area, doing that 90-degree turn on that barrel roll, the genuine barrel roll, the three-ship formation will come back, being led by three-ship small V formation, led by Ed Shipley, pulling up, maintaining that minimum separation of wingtip to canopy. Now this is something you probably haven't seen since the 1950s. The formation of P-51s doing an aerobatic maneuver down that backside once again, going from the V formation to line abreast and back into the V formation once again. Ed Shipley, Jim Beasley, and Dan Calderall. Now coming back in their fours, they scored heavily over German interceptors, and by the war's end, P-51s had destroyed over 4,950 enemy aircraft in the air and more than any other Air Force fighter in Europe. Down and dirty, as they like to say. Mustangs served in nearly every combat zone. Now to give you the high speed, low speed situation as well from back in once again. While it comes in, we call with the 4-point pass. Every 90 degrees, he momentarily hesitates that aircraft. As he does, the 4-point roll. Okay. Mr. Bushman, we're not in the babysitting business. He's been gone for 2 hours. We're going to start charging $5 an hour as we come in for the tuck under break. Beautiful tuck under break. William Bushman, your son Brian, is at the Lost and Found. That's right behind the announcer stand here by the bleachers. And actually, he's not lost. The parents are lost. But yeah, we do get into babysitting charges here after a while. So once again, if you become lost or separated, whatever you... Running around the grazing area, they come in and then they pull up. Little victory roll there. Probably by Jim Beasley. And another victory roll. And finally, Vlado Lenny. We have Ed Shipley, Jim Beasley, Dan Calderell, and Vlado Lenny. Ed, of course,
Folks out of Europe and said, will you build Spitfires for us? And North American said, no, we won't do that. Well, what we will do, we'll build an airplane for you. We'll build an airplane for you that'll be as good or better than the Supermarine Spitfire. And they produced it. In less than 100 days, they flew the A model of the P-51. That had the Allison V-1710 engine. And then, of course, with the C's and D's, then we started putting the Rolls-Royce Merlin engines in it. They were built under a license by the Packard Motor Car Company here in the States. But it just made such a tremendous difference in the airplane. High altitude capability. We could run it right on up through 30,000 feet, right along with the 17s and everything. You know, that P-51. Yeah, Bill Bordelot, what is it?
Well, it's the F-15 Eagle, and this is out of Dobbins Air Force Base down there in Marietta, Georgia, which we did a show down there in May. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the F-15 Eagle. During Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the F-15 provided defensive umbrella. Flown by Captain Bert Murphy from the 116th Fighter Squadron, Georgia Air National Guard. Captain Murphy is a graduate of Shelbyville. The contractor to make this is a McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Company from St. Louis, Missouri. It is a two-seat or single-seat, two-engine fighter with a length of 63.5 feet and a height of 18.5 feet. Now, from the left, the gear down, the flaps down, and the landing light on. Well, if we could bring Murph up over the PA, we'll let him say hi. The F-15A is designed as an air superiority fighter. F-100 PW turbofan engines, approximately 24,000 pounds each thrust. What you notice hanging down underneath is the belly tank, or the center tank.
That's one of the quickest climbs to 5,000 or 6,000 feet that you will ever see. How about that? Great noise. Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, Panama, all of that's ancient history to a lot of our young people, and that's why it's so important, we think, that the aircraft of those various periods be demonstrated so that the folks can see what they are. And here's a rare bird just lifted off and sucking up the gear. Kelly Johnson designed this airplane with a very, very unique twin boom at the beginning of what was known as the Skunk Works. A Warhawk built by Curtis. The Shaky twin boom fighter was designed by the Lockheed Corporation in response to the Army Air Force requirement for a high-altitude fighter. The unique combination of twin engines on a twin boom fuselage. Beautiful warbirds from the left, ladies and gentlemen, with the two Allison V-1710s, originally costing about $115,000 a copy, the P-38 Lightning.
Quiet.
Followed by the Curtis P-40 Warhawk. This P-40 was developed from the P-36. It was America's foremost fighter in service when World War II began. And P-40s were the aircraft that engaged the jet. In China in early 1942 by the famed Flying Tigers. Also in North Africa in 1943 by the first American Air Force, Army Air Force all-black unit, the 99th Fighter Squadron. And now on the takeoff roll, the Boeing B-17.
The B-17 will be coming around in a moment.
P-42. See Ralph Royce taking off with it right now. And now the big ass bird, the P-47 with Charles Osborne.
P-47, the big ass bird too.
He got himself a tank.
And that's the owner and the man who helped put this.
This flies a tribute to Howard Clark and those great pilots in the 406 Fighter Group of the 9th Air Force who sacrificed so much to bring victory here some 50 years ago.
The others, and from the left here comes the P-38 Lightning once again. Let's see what kind of a bomb we get off this one here. The Curtis P-40 Warhawk. That's two.
The P-40 Warhawk saw wider service than any other colors of 28 Allied nations.
P-51 now pitching up
From the Northwest. He said, don't worry about it, it's just a flight of B-17s coming in from the States. But indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it was not. For the Imperial Japanese Navy, the Akagi, the Kaga, the Hiryu, the Soryu, the Shokaku, and the Suikaku, that morning had launched 250 miles northwest of Hawaii, the Imperial Japanese fleet of 235 aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 7:55 in the morning. The place, the island base of Pearl Harbor. You are there. 235 aircraft of the Imperial Japanese fleet. The Mitsubishi A6M0, the Nakajima B5MK, and the Aoki D3A dive bombers had just invaded American soil at Pearl Harbor at December 7th, 1941. Remember the rifle? They issued him 30 rounds of ammunition. He had to sign for it.
You remember that flight of B-17 that the commander said it wasn't? The flight of B-17s were indeed coming in from the east that morning. Watch now, ladies and gentlemen, as the B-17G flies by from north to south. That aircraft trying to stay out of the way of the Imperial Japanese Navy invading Pearl Harbor December the 7th, 1941. The P-40 Warhawk based at Hickam Field. A very few of them got off the ground because General Short had ordered that all of the aircraft be parked in the middle of the field so that they would not be sabotaged by those who would do that living on Pearl Harbor. The B-17G flying in from the Pacific. The P-40 Warhawk. The Nakajima B-5N Kate, ladies and gentlemen. This aircraft with a specially designed torpedo. This designed by Admiral Yamamoto fully a year ahead of time so that the Japanese could drop the torpedo in the very shallow waters of Pearl Harbor. It would go across the top of the submarine. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we lost 77 ships of the fleet that December the 7th morning, 1941. You remember the flag that was just being raised over the Arizona. The Aoki E-3A dive bomber dropped a special armor-piercing shell onto the foredeck of that great carrier, taking 1,243 American sailors to their watery graves. Feel the concussion. Watch the smoke and the heat. Imagine the flames that are on the bay at Pearl Harbor. Imagine that young sailor jumping over the side, trying to get away from a sinking, burning Arizona. Imagine the young man, his first command at the battleship to Nevada. He had started it towards the opening in the bay, recognizing that he could not. He beached the ship rather than block the bay at Pearl Harbor. Think of the heroism that took place that morning. Think about the young Signal Corps men up at the north end of the beach who called it the zero. America was fighting with P-40 Warhawks and Brewster Buffalo and other aircraft that were much slower, much more cumbersome, and unable to fight against the very fast, very light, very performance-oriented Mitsubishi A6M Zeros of the Imperial Japanese fleet. The Nakajima B-5N Kate in the back seat of that aircraft.
We lift off in less than 1,500 feet. Of course, he's not carrying any weapons this afternoon, but even on a 16,000-pound bomb load, engines could still take off in less than 4,000 feet. But it's true, General Electric turbofan engines are more than just power to the A-10's performance. They're both smokeless and much quieter than comparable engines. And this makes the airplane a lot harder to see and hear when attacking from very low altitudes. The altitudes where it's most effective, and where it can best achieve tactical supplies over enemy forces. Those engines are also extremely fuel efficient, enabling the A-10 to fly more than 2,100 miles without refueling. And with in-flight refueling, it fly non-stop to Europe and the Middle East, as it did routinely during the Gulf War. Another key feature of the airplane I noted earlier is survivability. The airplane was designed to absorb a great deal of punishment and still keep flying. To do this, both the pilot and vital flight controls are enclosed in what we call a titanium bathtub, a tough armor barrier that can stop virtually everything up to a 37mm anti-aircraft shell. Redundancy or backup systems located in widely separated sections of the plane also add to its survivability. This survivability, along with its endurance, make it an ideal aircraft for forward air controllers, the pilots who coordinate strikes on ground targets from the air, and that's a role many A-10s are now performing for our air forces. Roll at Show Center. Following the roll, Captain Mace will perform a classic aerobatic maneuver, the Cuban 8. To do this, he'll pull his aircraft through the vertical, position at 45 degrees, nose low and upside down, then roll upright and continue his dive down to 500 feet above the ground. He'll then begin a second 6-speed pull-up, a maneuver that pulls on his body some 6 times to force gravity and repeat the maneuver in the opposite direction. Now, let's watch Captain Mingus and his A-10 as they draw a figure 8 in the sky. It's this remarkable maneuverability that enables the A-10 to perform its close air support mission. twisting and turning low to the battlefield. It can deliver devastating firepower, destroy enemy targets close to friendly ground forces. And it's also a wide variety of modern weapons, all of them used effectively to attack enemy forces during the Gulf War. These include such precision-guided munitions as the Maverick missile and laser-guided bomb. As Captain Mays completes this half of the Cuban 8, he'll perform a level 360-degree high G turn. It's this outstanding maneuverability that enables the A-10 to work effectively, even under marginal weather conditions. Captain Mays completed that turn in only 1,400 feet. If this were actual combat, he could have delivered 4 firing orders from long range and then turned quickly to avoid flying over enemy guns or missiles. Missiles, it can perform what we call a defensive break. Drop it from 1,000 feet down to 50 above the ground in less than 7 seconds. Captain Menges is now positioning his aircraft for final approach. His first landing pattern will demonstrate the A-10's normal landing configuration at its usual final approach airspeed of 100
February 14th, 1943. It continued in service until 1953 for the longest service life of any American fighter. The first fighter to exceed 400 miles an hour. That's Vaughn Olson from Spring Lake, Texas. The next aircraft is a bigger model. That's got a 4-bladed prop. It's North Lewis, I think north of Louisville, isn't he, Kenny? And this is Charles Osborne's Corsair that's still not painted, but it's finished. I'm not sure if Charlie's flying it or not. I think Brad Hook may be flying it. That's that little company, Charlie Brad. It was the first part of the 400 miles an hour low flight from before the Genesee Zero. Now we got a P-48 here. It came right after the flew 64,051 combat sorties and destroyed 2,140 Japanese aircraft with a loss of only 189. During the Korean War, a Corsair was credited with shooting down a MiG-15 jet, and during the first 10 months flew 82% of all the Navy and Marine close support missions. And incidentally, Kenny, I met that guy the other day. let's go to wartime once again at Kenny Christ.
By May of 1942, Japan had conquered almost all of the Pacific in just 7 months. All that lay in her path were New Guinea, Australia, and remnants of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Filled with victory disease, the Japanese thought they were invincible. Their final plans called for invading New Guinea, gaining control of the sea lanes to Australia, and to a total annihilation of the U.S. Pacific Fleet in a single major sea battle. This battle was to become the first naval battle fought entirely in the air without the engagement of surface ships. It was the Battle of the Coral Sea. Outnumbered by Japanese forces, the Americans met the enemy with aircraft carriers, the USS Yorktown and Lexington. As the two fleets groped about the Coral Sea, searching for each other in the early morning hours of May the 7th, Corsair that we see flying in front of us today. The skies over the Coral Sea were filled with the sights and sounds of aerial combat for 2 thunderous days. On the basis of ships sunk, the Battle of the Coral Sea was a victory for the Japanese. But ships tell only part of the tale. The Americans could claim a decisive victory in the Coral Sea despite their losses because the Japanese fleet had been stopped in its tracks. The Japanese operation for conquest of the Pacific would never resume. Japanese aura of invincibility had been shattered. To many observers, the Battle of the Coral Sea may have been a standoff. But to Japan, the disappointing outcome was to be of critical importance. June 4th, 1942. Less than a month after the Battle of the Coral Sea, Admiral Yamamoto had a plan that he was certain would lure the American aircraft carriers to their doom and end American hopes of winning the war in the Pacific. Rebuilding the reenactment of history. Imagine, there's no ships within 150 miles of these aircraft. This is the first major battle that proved Billy Mitchell's theory that aircraft would become the major instrument of war. He was nearly drummed out of the service during World War I because of his theory of the use of aircraft. The Mitsubishi A6M0, 1,200 horsepower in the nose. The F4U Corsair, 2,200 horsepower. The Japanese called it whistling death. This performance to fly off of American aircraft carriers during that period from 1942 through 1945. The F4U Corsair then went on after World War II, was kind of mothballed for a period, flying in the service of both the Navy and the Marine Corps. Corsair, 2 different aircraft capable of displaying their capabilities here today.
And as the T-28, Kenny Christ, describing the typical battle, our Corsairs are recovering step 1, and that is Vaughn Olson, flying the FG-1D, which is the Goodyear version of the Vaughn F4U-1D, known as Whistling Death, or the bent wing bird, the expanded version of the squirrel cages taught to all Navy and Marine Corps student naval aviators. And incidentally, Kenny Crates, he has a daughter, I believe, that is at the Naval Academy.
That is correct. She's a first-class midshipman up at Annapolis, Maryland, Bill. Zeros that we've been flying in the show today were built by 20th Century Fox in 1968 for the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. So what you're actually seeing are the movie aircraft that were built for that movie.
Now as he goes up on that 45-degree line with a series of point rolls that pulled it through the backside for a maneuver we call the split S, or the reverse 1/2 Cuban 8. Vaughn is doing maneuvers that, of course, are designated to all Naval and Marine Corps aviators. The bent wing bird. Those wings, by the way, fold up when they're on a Navy carrier. Vaughn now goes straight up to that vertical line once again. Does what we call the vertical half roll on the way up. Pulls it across the top for an inside Humpty Dump and down the backside.
Watch, look, listen, enjoy. The FG-1D Goodyear Corsair flown by Vaughn Olson.
By the way, this particular T-28 used to be the one that was owned by Dr. Dick Dieter, who was flying the T-Bone out there earlier today. The can see that Vaughn has got the landing gear down, and our zero air sneak attack for the F-16C. This is Captain Levin and Captain Osborne. The two F-16 Fighting Falcon aircraft traces their combat heritage back to the first days of World War II, where they flew both P-40s and P-47. These F-16s are capable of day and night operation. They have laser-guided bombs.
Was still drinkable from 1943 to 1959. Ladies and gentlemen, turn your eyes to the north and listen to the reenactment of history as the only flying B-29 in the world takes to the sky at your Aviation Heritage Museum here at Clark County Airport. Horsepower, twin Wasp radial R-3350s. That very engine went on to power such airplanes as the DC-7, the Super Constellation, and other great carrier aircraft, people carrier aircraft, right on into the 1950s and early 1960s. The B-17G, 1,200 horsepower per engine, from the Lone Star Flight Museum in Galveston, Texas. The B-24 Liberator, again, 1,200 horsepower per side. Over 19,000 of these aircraft built in that period from 1941 through 1945. This one known as Diamond Lil, owned and operated by the Confederate Air Force at Midland, Texas. The B-25, ladies and gentlemen, this one known the Billy Mitchell, the Mitchell Special, this one that flew off of the Hornet, this one from the Missouri wing of the Confederate Air Force at St. Louis, Missouri. Show Me, Lindbergh's own squadron, the name of the airplane. But certainly not least on takeoff roll right now, the PV-2 Harpoon, this one based right up here at Columbus, Indiana. Again, a Confederate Air Force airplane. 2,200 horsepower on each side of this great old airplane.
Kitty Price is a sight it's not seen very often. You know, Kitty Price is a rather interesting aspect. Paul Tibbetts III is a F-15 pilot in the Air Force.
And a trivia question. What was the second airplane? The Boxcar, B-O-C-K-S-C-A-R. And the pilot's name?
Ladies and gentlemen, here comes another great sight. As the P-51s and all the other fighters would play it and listen to them roar. get to see a sight like that very often, Jetty Cripe.
Let's go back to Mendenhall Air Base in Europe, in England, back in 1943 and 44, because what you've just seen is the launch of the bombers, and they go out and get off, and then here come the 51s and the 47s and the 38s, depending upon which squadron would have been flying from what base, and then they would join up with the bombers as they get across the channel and fly in at the 25 or 30,000 foot level, flying high cover above the bombers, just as you see it demonstrated here at Wings of Heritage Air Show here in Clark County, Indiana.
The little friends, for a long time, the bombers were unable to have. The Mustangs were outfitted with paper drop tanks, which they could jettison. Greatly extended the range. Here come the Mustangs!
Targets of opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Once the B-24s and the B-25s and the B-17s had gotten into Germany or into northern Italy or to Ploesti and Romania, then out so they could use up these 20-millimeter cannon shells before they went back into Europe and destroy as much property on the ground as they possibly could.
Incredible films available of the gun camera footage, of videotapes available.
I've never seen so many P-51s in one place before in my life. Now we got the 17G coming in, 1,490 horsepower, over 12 foot of propeller out in front, an aircraft capable of over 30.
And from the left, the P-38 Lightning, Kelly Johnson's, one of his first designs, and a photo pass now for the B's. Shot, good shot.
From Galveston, Texas, ladies and gentlemen, from the Lone Star Flight Museum, the B-7.
Left rudder, so it keeps it right over the show line and keeps that wing down so you can see it. And the B-Hawk, as the B-24 Liberator, also in on a photo pass, being passed up. What a swarm! This is the P-51 jockey in the condition for their final pass.
Rob, they call that Shaky. During World War II, they call that the Snake Man. This aircraft actually flew as a World War II patrol and bomber aircraft. The PB-2 Harpoon, 2,100 horsepower right engine to the West Coast, and actually picked up a couple of the submarines that were floating around over the theater. The air derivation of a Lockheed 10.
51 Mustang with Rolls-Royce Merlin V12, an inline water-cooled engine.
B-17 on landing roll, ladies and gentlemen. Ralph Royce at the controls, Vandy Anderson on the right-hand side. P-38 Lightning, very, very rare aircraft. If you could even find one today, it would be processed and valued at over $1 million. This one very, very rare, also from the Lone Star Flight Museum down in Galveston. Listen to the sound, it's much quieter because of the turbo supercharger at the rear end of the engine on the Allison B-1710 engine. Same engine as is in the P-40 Warhawk. 2,200 horsepower. In the nose of the third, the P-47. Under Thunderbolt, the A-10, and the P-47.
You betcha. There you get a photo pass for some Mustangs as they waggle their wings, saluting you. All of you who have come to see Aviation Heritage at its finest here in 1994 at Clark County.
On landing, B-29 Super Fortress, this one known as Fifi, from down at the headquarters squadron of the Confederate Air Force at Midland, Texas. Y'all come down and see us sometime, yeah? For our WHAS folks, they've been out here working diligently all afternoon. Spent 3 hours with us helping to put the show on and make it available for you all later on tonight. B-29 Fifi. B-24 on final approach, got in, 1,200 horsepower inside.
You know, these aircraft are open for tours and your inspection for a nominal charge, and it is the tours that these aircraft make around the country each year, allowing the people of all ages, some former pilots and crew members to their great to get a feel for the kind of missions that were flown and get a sense of what it was really all about back in World War II, and that keeps them flying, and that is the motto of the Confederate Air Force.
Place Management System, NBD Bank, Paragon, Kobe Combs and Lance, Eastwood Police Supply, and Hollis Cabinet has made it.
We don't want to minimize the work of hundreds of volunteers to make this thing work. Without the volunteers, it doesn't make any difference how much money you got. You gotta have
these airplanes in the air so that we may be the great free nation we are.
You know, if you talk about when you travel, I was in Reading, Pennsylvania back the first part of June, got there and decided I wanted to listen on my scanner to some of the aircraft, anti-submarine warfare aircraft. They've got a B-25, got a DC-3, a bunch of aircraft. Again, it's a labor of love because this guy left a good job at Wendy's International in their hamburger division to go to work and tell where you're going to go. You might run into a beautiful museum and some great-looking old warbirds.
We're flying left. We're not even done yet. And I see folks starting to walk up and down the line. We do want you to know that the flight line will be open after the show. You will have the opportunity to visit and look at the...
They were the aces who flew in World War I, or the doughboys who endured the hell on earth of the trenches. They were the World War II GIs who inched their way to victory. The air and ground crews who kept our bombers, our fighters, our L-birds and transports going against all odds and against all dangers. They flew supersonic jets and endured the biting cold in Korea, or were at the controls of helicopters and in the steaming jungles in Vietnam. They went in peace to Beirut only to die at the hands of terrorists. Some were men and women who liberated Grenada and went ashore in Panama, or the soldiers and sailors and Marines who served, fought, and died in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq during Operation Desert Storm. We salute our fallen comrades in the traditional flyer's way with an aircraft leaving a vacant slot in a formation. A reminder of those who never came back from that last mission, those who paid the supreme sacrifice. Like all of us, they loved and were loved. They marveled at the dawn. They felt sunsets glow. They loved life so much that they were willing to put theirs on the line in the hope that the rest of us would not have to do that. Most of all, they did it to honor this great country of ours so that we could stand here today and breathe this sweet, precious air of freedom. To them, each and every one, we dedicate our missing man formation.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, may we have complete silence as we salute all of the airmen who have given their lives in the defense of freedom of our country. From the aces who flew by the seat of their pants in World War I to the crews that manned the mighty flying fortresses in World War II, the war to end all wars. To the supersonic jets of Korea, the choppers of Vietnam to the Harriers of Grenada, the Cobras of Panama, and the gallant men and women of Operation Desert Storm, to the vision and foresight of Billy Mitchell, to the memory of Colin Kelly, and to Jimmy Doolittle's B-25s in North Africa. Of all wars, ask that you remember what our freedom means and to support our government, the United States of America. Our special thanks to Vintage Fighters and their support and their efforts in putting this show together. As we continue, ladies and gentlemen, 34 Combat Demo, and then the Red Baron Chairman Squadron with Jerry Van.
Coming up will be a flyby by the F-15C model. This F-15C goes from the 1st Fighter Squadron, Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida. It is being flown by to your left. You'll see the F-15 is approaching stage center. In fact, he's directly above that helicopter that's coming in. We're away. Ladies and gentlemen, from the 1st Fighter Squadron, Tyndall Air Force Base. The armament includes internally mounted M61A1 20mm 6-barrel cannons, 940 rounds of ammunition, 4 AIM-9 LM Sidewinders, and 4 AIM-7 FM Sparrow air-to-air missiles, or 8 AMRAAMs carried externally. The aircraft grosses out at close to 68,000 pounds in the F-16D model. This time with the gear down, the landing lights down, you're getting the landing configuration of the F-15C model. The first model that we had earlier today was an A model. As I mentioned earlier, they're the holders of 6 world records of time to height. Captain Henderson will now demonstrate the climbing capability of the F-15 as he comes in with a close to 500 pass and then a quick climb to 15,000 feet. As our P-47, the big-ass bird, taxiing in, this, of course, being flown by your host and chairman of the air show, Mr. Charles Osborne, as he's coming by, a big-ass bird, too. Your host. He's done a great job, a wonderful job. For us here getting them off. From the left, once again. Now, once the F-15 with the gear down, the landing light down, then he'll suck everything up. As Glamorous Love, that's Chuck Yeager following him in there. did that P-51. All right, he's cleaned it up. And he's going up to the 50. Oh, I guess he's got to come back and give us another pass, but there is going up. He just made it. This is good. So in this case, this is going to be his planned altitude. You want to come in and give us
Once again, here comes the F-15 Eagle. Let's see if we're going to get
let's see what we're going to get this time.
The area around the B-29, B-24, B-17, and B-25 and Harpoon are being opened up for your inspection. We encourage you. Frank Horst in his T-33, the Lockheed T-33 Shooting Star, on the takeoff roll. Here it is. Engine of 5,400 pounds of thrust. Now at a maximum takeoff weight of 15,000 pounds and a 5,400 pound thrust engine, it's slightly less than a 1-to-2 thrust to weight ratio.
Battle for domination of the sky. Today, that dream is a reality for thousands of people around the world who have climbed into the cockpit of a Sky Warriors fighter. 6 warriors, Sky Warriors, a civilian fighter squadron in Atlanta dedicated to all who seek the thrill of the dogfight, using the United States Air Force